Shalom, everybody. I'm going to be starting a new series tonight on why I believe Yeshua is the Messiah. Tonight's just pretty much going to be an introduction. And the reason I'm doing this, basically, is because one of the first video I did, I mentioned that there's no doubt in my mind Yeshua is the Messiah. And I'm sure there are other people, I know there are other people that believe the other way. There's no doubt in their mind that he is the Messiah. Anyway, so they wanted to see proof. I'm going to give you evidence. Like I said in my first video, you can't prove anything 100%. So I'm going to give the evidence of why I believe Yeshua is the Messiah. This is a discussion. Just like my other series, Yeshua is not Yahweh in the flesh. This is something I studied out also. I'm by no means going to have an answer for everything, just like I didn't on the other one. But I'm going to present evidence the way I see it and tell you why I think that he is the Messiah. My job is not to convince anybody. I'm just laying out the evidence here. And I did spend some time in Israel back in 2009, 2010. I was there for about five and a half months, and I did live among the Orthodox in Safat. And that was a pretty interesting time there. I mean, I didn't try to convert anybody. I wasn't going into my beliefs. But I did meet an Orthodox Jew there. I'm going to get into that in a minute. I did meet an Orthodox Jew who believed Yeshua is the Messiah. And I'll tell you about him in a minute. But I want to just bring out a few points here. Like, my questions to be, but why would Orthodox Jews believe Yeshua is the Messiah? Now, there are lots of Messianic Jews. Okay, a lot of them come from Reformed Judaism, and maybe they found out they were Jewish. They were already Christians, already believers in Yeshua. But there are some Orthodox that believe in Yeshua. Now, I met one personally, myself, but I've heard of others. I did a little research, and a lot of them that believe Yeshua and the Messiah. I saw one on YouTube that was quite outspoken about it. And he brought up the passage that if you deny me before men, I'll deny you before my Father in heaven. But most of them are not coming out in the open right now because they get ostracized from their community. And you can look that up yourself. I'm not saying there's millions of them or hundreds of thousands, but there are Orthodox Jews that believe Yeshua is the Messiah. And does that make him the Messiah? No. But that just is very interesting that there are people that are coming to see that. But back to my question. Why would Jewish people believe in Jesus? Okay. This is the picture they've been presented pretty much for 2,000 years. It may vary a little bit, though. Okay, Jesus, okay, his name isn't even Hebrew. So right off the bat, you have a name of a Messiah that's not even Hebrew. All right, and that's, you can do your own research on that. It's not very hard to figure that out. And this is a big one here. When people hear of Jesus, they think of someone who did away with the Torah. In other words, he came and things changed. You don't have to keep the Torah anymore. Gentiles don't have to keep the Torah. Jewish believers don't have to keep the Torah. So that's a big stumbling block. It's a big stumbling block. Another point is Jesus is the second person of a Trinity. Now, not all Yeshua believers believe that, but many of them do, and many of them believe in the deity. Okay, that was my first series of talks and videos was on that subject. So that's what they hear. Now, this contradicts a very core belief in monotheism, that Yeshua is equal with the Almighty. Okay, so put yourself in their shoes. Also, he was born on a pagan holiday, on Christmas. All right? I'm not condemning people who do Christmas, but do your research on that. It's not in the Bible. Also, he resurrected on a pagan holiday called Easter, Astarte, a fertility goddess, the name of fertility goddess. Do your own research on that. There's going to be people that are like, no, it doesn't. It's not that. It's just we're celebrating his resurrection. So that's what people have been presented with Jesus for almost 2,000 years. Also, he's a Messiah who will condemn people to eternal torture in a place called hell if they don't believe in him. Okay? Keep in mind also, people who persecuted Jewish people believe this. Terrible things they did to Jewish people. Now, terrible things have been done to Christians and all kinds of people, but when people hear Jesus, Jews, a lot of them cringe. And that's true. That's true. So, the Messiah I believe in is not like the one I just presented. Okay, that's the Messiah most Jews have heard about. When I went to Israel in 2009, 2010, okay, we were living in Safat, very, very Orthodox community in Israel, but later on we moved to Tiberias, and we lived there for a few months, and we met Messianics there, and we were fellowshipping with them, and over one particular weekend, over the Sabbath, we went to Haifa, and they had Messianics and Christians, they were meeting there, and we stayed over for Shabbat and everything, and I met a gentleman, I'm not going to mention his name, but the guy I went to Israel with, we had been talking to people, and almost all of them believed in the Trinity and the deity of Yeshua. Almost all of them. And the Torah didn't seem to be, like, you know, they observed Shabbat, but the Torah didn't seem to be like, that's crucial. And then we met this one gentleman, and we started talking to him. And he showed us a picture on his phone of when he was going to be a rabbi. He was an Orthodox Jew, and he came to believe through a business associate. And the verse that he got him thinking was, I will raise up a prophet like unto Moses. Now that was a verse prior to this meeting this gentleman that I had said before, I don't think that's a good messianic verse. Honestly, that's what I said. And that was the one verse that led this man to, I think, start reading what people call the New Testament. And he came to believe Yeshua was the Messiah. And he's talking to my friend and I, and he's quoting to us John chapter 17. I'm laughing because it was like unbelievable. It's like, this guy believed just like us. And he's an Orthodox Jew. But he had nowhere to go. He was ostracized from his community. So he's hanging out with Messianics and Christians because he's not accepted. And that's true. You know, when I was there, some of you may have heard of Rabbi Schneerson. They call him Rebbe Schneerson. And he died in 1994, but many Jews believe that he's the Messiah. And this is 2009, 2010, keep in mind. His picture was all over Israel where I was. All over Israel. Not only that, they were handing out cards. I still have his card. And I could show it in one of the next videos. I don't have it with me right now. But it's just a little card, like the size of your driver's license. Has his picture on there, says Moshiach. And it's all written in Hebrew. But they were trying to proselytize to get people to believe that he was the Messiah. And, you know, the funny thing to me was they are accepted. They can go in the synagogues. They're accepted. But if you believe Yeshua is the Messiah, you're not accepted. And why is that? Well, partly that might be because of all the things I just mentioned before about how Yeshua has been presented to Jewish people. And Schneerson, you know, he died, still has a following. And, you know, about a couple of years ago, I was in a kind of a hardware store, and I saw a gentleman wearing a kippah and tzitzits, and I started a conversation. I remember him because it's very obvious by the color of his hair. I remember him when he was a little boy, seeing his family in a store. And I started talking to him, and we started talking, just having conversation. I wasn't trying to convert him. I don't try to do that to people. But we had a great conversation. And I was saying, they're Orthodox, they're believing in Yeshua. He said, oh, I doubt that. And I also mentioned that there was a man that wrote the name of the Messiah down, Yitzhak Kadori, and it was encrypted. After he died, a year later, his disciples opened up his envelope and it spelled out Yehoshua. Okay, now that doesn't prove that Yehoshua is a Messiah or Yeshua is a Messiah, but it was kind of interesting. So we had a good conversation. I really enjoyed it. I wish we could have talked longer, but we were in line and very friendly, and it was awesome. And there was no animosity, nothing. And he kind of understood where I was coming from, and we were talking about COVID and all that, and Dr. Zelenko, and who made a protocol for the COVID thing, and he's dead now. He died of cancer. Very wonderful man. He said, yeah, he met his son in New York, and anyway, it was interesting. But all that to go say that I don't know a whole lot of Orthodox, okay, but I did meet one in Israel that believed Yeshua was the Messiah. All right. I'm going to try to keep these short. Okay, in the Second Temple period, there were thousands of Jewish people who believed Yeshua was the Messiah. So you had your traditional Judaism, and then you had people that also kept Torah but believed Yeshua was the Messiah. Kind of like with Sneerson today. And they were also fellowshipping together in the synagogues. So there were thousands of Jews that believed Yeshua was the Messiah. Now they had more accurate scriptures than we have today. Okay? And later on, after 70 AD, things changed, and they weren't in fellowship with them in the synagogues anymore. But my point bringing that is that they were traditional Jews. It's not like they started another religion. And that's what people think a lot of times. That, quote, Jesus came to start another religion. No, not at all. And I believe that he came to fulfill prophecies, and there's still yet some to be fulfilled. And I'm going to be getting into that in my next video. I'm going to start looking at Leviticus and the sacrificial system. So that's just my introduction. I just wanted to lay that out here tonight, and I'll start next time getting into Leviticus. Thank you so much. Have a good evening. Shalom.